Hi, welcome to Jewelry as Your Side Hustle with Sugar Gay Isber, and I'm Sugar Gay Isber, and I'm so glad we have a special guest today, all the way from Anchorage, Alaska, which I can't wait to hear about how it is to live in our most northern state. It's so exciting. I have another friend there right now, so I know a little bit about it. So we're going to learn more. And this is a jewelry designer. She has lots of one-of-a-kind, very special, beautiful pieces, and we're going to let her talk about her process and how she got started and all of that. So welcome to the show today, Annie Ciszak. Ciszak. I think I spelled it or said it right. Did I say it
It's
right?
all good. It's all good.
Well, I know my name has a lot of variables to it too, so I don't care. You can just call me Sugar. It's easy. But
There you go.
welcome. I'm so glad that you're here on my show today. And I can't believe I finally get to talk to you. And we're like twins in with the glasses. So
I know.
that's
It's like we planned
Texas.
it.
Yeah. So tell us about you and how to really say your name and give us a little update on what's going on in Anchorage, Alaska today.
Well, fantastic. Well, my name is Annie, and I always say Annie like the orphan. This way, it's not like Anna Ainsley. Well,
Right.
yeah, so Annie like the orphan, and the last name is Ciszak. It's Polish, which sure, let's have fun with all the S's and the Z's and the extra consonants. Um, I'm originally from south of Buffalo, New York, and I
No
moved
way.
to
I
right,
was just
yeah.
swimming with somebody today in Niagara on the US side, which is right there
Oh,
today.
funny. Yeah, that's like 15,
Yeah.
20 minutes away, if that.
I actually
Too
used to
funny.
have I had a PO box in Buffalo because I lived in Canada.
Ah,
So I'd cross the border and go into Niagara Falls and get my mail.
that's funny because when I went to school in Buffalo, I went to Buffalo State College, we would cross the border to Canada to go to the Canadian Ballet because you could drink at 19.
I don't think that you're the first person that thought of that, honestly.
I don't think so. There was definitely, lots of cars in a row heading over. We
That
get
border
creative.
that border guards have seen it all. And we think, oh,
Oh,
drinkers.
oh, for sure.
And I was
Yeah,
doing kind of the reverse because uh, I was coming down from Canada and buying liquor and then sneaking it over the border because it was so much less expensive and it's very hard to, justify those prices when hey, it's only like $10 in the US. So why is it 40 here? So
exactly. Don't look at my car. There's nothing here. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done that ever. So,
oh, we could really talk about that for a while. How did you get to Anchorage?
so I followed a boy, which is it's kind of the story up here. Like you're either from here and you stay here, or we tend to follow other people. I didn't stay with that boy for very long, but obviously I stayed in Anchorage. And I've been here since 2004, which is crazy. I'm
I
coming up on my
know,
20-year anniversary.
20 years.
Yeah, that makes me feel really old. Don't look at the grays. But yeah, if you had told me when I moved that I would still be here, I would have said you were nuts. Just kind of in the same way that if you had told me that I was going to be a jewelry maker for the rest of my life, I would have said that you were nuts. So sometimes we just fall into things where we're meant to be, and that's where it is, and that's great. Sometimes I really think things happen for a reason, which is fantastic.
Well, it really is beautiful up there. I have a friend that's like from way past. I've known her for 30 something years, and she's a nurse right now in a little town in Alaska, and I follow her. So I see how the night is really different. Like it's really cold there still. It's like still freezing and snowing.
Ugh.
But what about you? I think she's in Barstow, Alaska, or something like that. But anyway,
I'm not sure where that is. There's lots of funky little awesome villages.
little place, little tiny town.
Yeah, I'm not as well versed as maybe I should be. But we're finally seeing some signs of spring here. My perennials are coming up. I maybe pushed the garden in a little fast, but I couldn't wait anymore. We had record snowfall this year, which was a lot. Again, coming from Buffalo, I grew up with snow.
Yes.
Love it. Great. But I've kind of met my quota. So we almost broke the all-time record here in Anchorage for like the most snowfall ever. And I was over it. I was done. So
So
like, yeah, let's put some plants in the ground.
how many feet are we talking about?
Oh, feet, I don't know. That's math. 120 or 130 some inches. So
So
divided by 12,
almost
whatever
10
that.
feet. So,
Yeah, it was a lot.
Wow. I mean,
Like buildings were collapsing, people had to shovel their roofs. It's
and
it's a
how did
mood.
you survive? You did okay?
We did okay, yeah. We got to shovel our roof, and that's always exciting. Said
Yeah,
no one ever.
because you can
But yeah,
fall off
spent a
that
lot of
roof.
time. What was that? I'm sorry.
You can fall off that roof.
No, which is why my husband's not allowed to go up there because I'm very concerned that's what will happen.
Yeah, sure.
um,
Nice.
yeah,
That's
so we don't do that. But I'm a knitter as well, so I spend a lot of time knitting and just enjoying the coziness
I
of home.
I saw your Outlander inspired piece and I was like gobsmacked. I'm like, oh, I could almost feel it on me. It was so beautiful.
Well, thank you.
I love that show too. I was like, oh, look at that. Like,
It's pretty great. And I went to Scotland with a friend several years ago, and so we had to, of course, see one of the big stone circles. And I took the cowl, and so we had to have this like photo shoot with the two of us to prove that, like, look, Outlander, here it is. And we touched the stones. Jamie Fraser did not.
bet you didn't go back in time.
We did not, but I was ready with my cowl if it happened. It didn't happen.
Well, we love that show. So it has it has good meanings for us. We're very much an Outlander family. So I really did think that was a beautiful piece that you did. And
Thank
good for
you.
you for making the effort and going over there and seeing those stones. I watched another show last night and it had those same stones in it. I'm like, okay, it's like a thing. Like I gotta go
Yeah,
over there and go
gotta
see those
go.
stones. Yeah. Well, so do you have any kids or how has that worked? What are you doing?
Um, I have some fur kids.
Ah.
We have two dogs adopted from Turks and Caicos. They're known as hotcakes. And we have two frogs, which were just adopted out of our Buy Nothing group. They don't do a whole lot, but that's Benson and Stabler, so they entertain us.
Wait, do you have them in your house?
We do, yes. They're just little aquatic frogs. They hang out and swim around.
So do they squeak a lot? Because I have a little froggery at our ranch, and we are. I get so excited, like, oh, there's a frog here, and he's calling for somebody else, and I can hear her calling. Like, do they do that? And they have an interesting little chirp chirp sound.
I haven't heard them, but we acquired them because a girl in the neighborhood, they were her pets. And apparently they were being pretty vocal at night, and the little girl couldn't sleep. And so they had to rehome these frogs because the kiddo couldn't sleep. So I was like, well, I'll take them. But we're not, I mean, they're not next to my bed. They think they were next to her bed. So I haven't heard them, but they just sort of swim around and do their thing. And then we have a cat which loves to watch the frogs. So I think that, they were meant for each other. Like, here's your energy
Entertainment.
for the day. Yeah.
Yeah, our frog is called Fred. Your friend does your frogs have names?
Yes, Benson and Stabler,
Okay, well, of course
because
you
we're
didn't
a
get to
big
name
Law and
them.
Order household.
Although if you renamed them, they probably wouldn't mind.
I don't think they know. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we have a male and a female or two males. So I don't think they really care about what's going on in their lives.
You're the only person I know that loves frogs as much as me. I love my little frogs. In fact, we have a camera kind of on the frog pond, and I turned it on the other night so my husband could just listen to little Fred talking to him. I'm like, look, Fred's talking to you. Like,
That's so funny.
I know it's actually funny that the camera actually picks up the sound. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's kind of fun. So yeah. Well, now let's talk about some jewelry because you make mostly one of a kind pieces. Me too. Like, I can make how I made 9,000 necklaces one time for Procter and Gamble. I can do
Oh
that.
my
Like,
God.
but it's because we're artists and we sit down and we just create. But you really have some beautiful pieces. Are you self-taught? Did you go to school? Like, how did you learn all that?
So I'm not self-taught, and the joke with everyone is like, did you take a free class at like a community center? It's like, well, no, I actually went to college for it. I started at Buffalo State College working towards a BFA in drawing, and one of the foundation classes, as all art students will tell you, is figure drawing. I don't mind a naked body in front of me at all because after 2 minutes, it
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But I have the hardest time drawing the human figure. And I got very frustrated. And so I was like, well, screw this, I'm taking a break. I'm going to take this silly jewelry class for fun. Like, won't that be a laugh? And ha ha ha, who's laughing now? I was really good at it. I really liked it. Clearly, I found the calling, and as they say, the rest is history. Um, did my work there, did all the the foundational things, moved up here in 2004, and I opened slash started, did my first craft show, I guess you could say, in probably 2005. And since then, I moved into wholesale. I actually do quite a bit of wholesale. That's kind of probably 50 or 60% of basically my income. It's hard to say no to those wholesale dollars. It's a little like, I mean, 9,000 necklaces. Oh my God, I can't imagine. I think probably 200 of the same piece is my limit. And it's kind of creatively crippling. But again, we all got bills to pay. So you got to do what you got to do.
I got paid $3 a necklace, and that was $27,000. So that was like,
Wow.
yeah, jewelry. That's my jam. Because just
Yeah,
like you, I kind of fell into art. Thank God we have college. I think that's really the benefit of going to college is really so that you can like explore other options. Like that's something I did too.
for sure. Well, and so the difference between where I went to high school in New York, we had a great art program. I obviously learned a lot. I didn't realize that there was this component to the craft, or the artisan side of it is in jewelry and metal, until I got to college. When I got to Alaska, talking to people with kids in high school, our high schools actually have jewelry programs as part of their art curriculum, which is awesome. To get kids started that early and to sort of dip their toes in, I think is great. But I was definitely really jealous. Like, you got it that early. I wish I had it that early.
Have you ever tried teaching I teach at the college level. I teach jewelry design at the community college level.
I'm not necessarily interested in teaching at that level. I've done individual classes. I've done some classes out of my home. In fact, we had a kitchen remodel that we had to fund last year, and part of that came through lessons.
Isn't that nice? It is like
It's
that is
great.
a side. That it's kind of like a side hustle
That's
within
the
a
side
side
hustle.
hustle. Yeah, it's a side hustle of the side hustle. Yeah. So, okay, I think when I think about Alaska, Anchorage, which I know is a beautiful city and a big city, it's not like a little tiny city. But there is a lot of tourism there. Is that who is buying your jewelry for the most part? They want to take
We have
something back.
a lot of tourists. We also have a really, really great local support network. I would be hard pressed to leave Alaska, not because I'm super outdoorsy and I love the mountains and hiking, because I absolutely do not. I'm outsidey. I like to look at the sun from the comfort of my car and a pull off. But locals support locals. Like, we are really good at lifting each other up, and God, that sounds really cheesy. But helping each other, and being such an isolated, because we are pretty isolated, an isolated community. If there's an event going on, like, that's the thing that's happening. It's not like you can drive 10, 15, 20 minutes and you've passed through three little towns. Like, this is it. So when there's something happening, people come out, they show up, they support local, and it's really great. So I wouldn't be where I am today at all without the support of basically the locals. And for that reason, like, to move, it would be tough to get me out of here.
Yeah, because that's your network right now. Like that's everything, right? And I get it. And it is so beautiful. So your wholesale accounts, are they coming from just people that are coming into do you have a store? Is that what it is?
I don't have a store. I did have a brick and mortar for 10 years. Nice little bucket list thing. It was called Bella Boutique. And it was exclusively handcrafted. I carried over 100 or so artisans from around the
Yeah.
country.
Wow.
Um, but people expect you to be there from this time to this time, and you have to wear pants, and it's like the whole thing. So
And a
I did
bra.
10 years of that. Yeah, right. All these things that are like, and now it's all things optional, which is fantastic. So I did that for 10 years. It was a whole lot of fun, but it was time to be done. But while I was doing that, I really worked up those wholesale lines. I used to travel out and do the big shows. I went to New York, Philadelphia, which RIP the Philly show, Boston, all of those. And that was fun. You got to network and meet people. Now I work with IndieMe.com, which is a wholesale exclusive American made handcrafted platform. So it saves all of those additional expenses of travel and hauling all of your stuff. And so it's really great. And so at
You
this
paid
point,
your
I think,
dues. It's okay.
oh,
You paid your dues.
yeah,
So
yes, I did.
yeah. I mean,
And
it's
coming
nice.
from here,
It's great that people are finding you on, on IndieMe. That's where now but you also have a site on Amazon Handmade, which I'm on
I
there
do.
too. I'm kind of revisiting all of it and kind of starting from scratch because when I signed up years ago, 2017, like everything has changed. Like
Yeah.
everything has changed. The photos, everything. It's just kind of start over. How's it going on those platforms for you? Because I know a lot of people that are watching this or listening to this, they might be on some of these other platforms. Tell me your story about that.
Um, so I'm on Etsy and Amazon. I guess we start with Amazon. I started right at the beginning as well, right when the handcrafted program began. I was right in there. I loved it. It was great. At the beginning, I was doing super well. And like you said, they've changed a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
As soon as the requirement came down that your first image needed to be a white background, I mean, it was like off the cliff. Like,
I remember. I was almost crying. I
oh, it was
remember
awful.
calling them and going, "This is so hard." Like, because I'm
Well,
trying to like erase the background. It's so hard. Now it's easy. Like, boom, push a button, done. But it was hard
and
back then.
yeah, well, in a lot of the since I work in a lot of silver that's on a white background, it looks awful.
Flat. I
You
know.
can't tell that there's any definition, and I
Yes.
am so not techie at all. The fact that I figured this out, like, round of applause. Um, but I mean, I paid somebody like $1 an image to fix them, but it is not that person's fault. They look terrible, and so no, at Amazon is not the place for me anymore. I mean, I'm still there. I still move a couple of things here and there, but if that were supposed to be like my main income stream, like, oh no, not at all. Um, Etsy, on the other hand, moves a little bit better. I'm certainly not like a top seller by any means, but I'm also like an OG Etsy member. I had an Etsy membership number. Like, it's 5,000 something. I was one of the first 5,000 people
Wow.
to sign up. I made a lot of friends back in the day when they actually had like chat rooms. We'd all sit in our regular 9 to 5 cubicles, like chatting in the seller forums. And I sort of use that as my, hey, you're at a show, you don't want to buy it now, you can go get it in the Etsy shop. It's just a little easier than an actual website. But of course, over the years, they've changed a lot as well. Their fee structure continues to go up and this and that. But I mean, that's the world we live in.
Yeah. Annie, I totally agree with you. And not only that, it like changes almost weekly. Like even on Etsy, I got something Etsy. They wanted me to be Etsy premium and it's like $10 more and you can do this. It's like, oh, okay, fine. Push the button, done. But I don't know what I get for that. I'm like, well, maybe it'll help.
Right.
Like we just keep it's kind of like gambling addicts. We just keep like trying a little bits of this and a little bit of that to see if we'll cha-ching finally come in because there's so much to the back end. Like I know that people that have not tipped their toe onto online sales, it is a whole different ball game than it was just even since COVID. I would even say social media has changed so much in just the past 4 years that it's really hard to keep up with all that they're pushing at us. Like, do you find
Oh,
that
for
too?
sure. Oh yeah, and like I said, I'm not techie. Like when Reels showed up on Instagram, I was like, no, no, like I just figured out how to use Instagram, and now I have to figure out this Reel thing. And then like, well, everyone's on TikTok. You have to be on TikTok. I finally think I made an account 2 or 3 months ago. I I'm never gonna go viral because I don't know what I'm doing. I also feel that I could be spending my time doing
Yes,
something more constructive, like
yes.
working on fabulous metal pieces, than figuring out how to make a TikTok video. But I'm old and grumpy and again paid my dues and it's hard to learn things when you're old.
Well, one thing I would also say is that the real thing that really could hold us all back is our phones. If you don't have the latest version of the phone, or at least within 2 years, then now, because the phones now, you know what they just added this week to my, so I have a Google phone, a Pro, Pixel Pro. So listen to this. This is like crazy. So you're on a phone call and you look at the phone and it says auto emojis. It's like, what? So I was talking to my son, and he's in the car with his family, and they push the button, and it's like, and it has like 8 different noises that you can make. Clapping was one, and cheers is, and like all kinds of cute fun
Oh,
things. And one of them was a fart. I'm like, I did that the whole car. Got little grandkids, 3 years. They're like, oh, grandma's farting. It's like, it's just
amazing.
like while you're on the phone. So audio emojis are coming. Like that's going to transition to everything too. Just watch, it's coming. Like
Because
Google,
we're not overstimulated enough. But
well, Google just can't think of more things to push at us because, uh, yeah, they want to charge us for some of these things down the road. That's for sure. And of course, we do invest in all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's tricky. So your phone now can do so much more than if you don't have a phone. I was talking to somebody that had an 8-year-old phone. I'm like, you're not even like covered by, I mean, anybody can walk by to steal your information because you don't even have any software on your phone anymore that's gonna save you if something happens, because our
right.
phones do have to be kept up to date, and that is a number one tool, and it's expensive to get. So our prices. Let's just talk about that. Living in Alaska, are prices like super expensive there? I know, like milk. I know groceries are just ridiculous, but even like cell phones,
Um,
are they more? Is it worth it to come down to the States, or can I send you something?
well, I did just, make a Trader Joe's run when we were in Seattle last week, and I definitely like hand carried basil plants home on the plane.
Oh, that's so cute.
um,
It's still quite a drive. I love Seattle. Oh my God, I love Seattle. How far of a drive is that for you?
we didn't drive. We
Oh,
flew. The drive
oh,
is a solid like 3 days, and you have to go through
yeah.
Canada.
I
It's a
mean, I'm trying
full.
to like visualize that, and I might kind of stop somewhere. I don't know, over Vancouver. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know how to
No,
go from Vancouver to you because it's a bit of a drive.
it's it's about a 3.5 hour flight, so it's nice, and that's our stopping point to go to the rest of the world. So it's kind of nice to actually get out of the airport when you actually stay in Seattle. So that was cool. But yeah, grabbed the TJs and the IKEA and the things while we were there, and of course had to visit Shipwreck Beads, um, because we're out of the state, so I have to go shopping. And I would say that I was unchaperoned, but my husband was very kind to push the cart behind me and be like, you take your time, you do what you need to do. Like, I
Oh,
understand that we don't come a lot. So that
yeah,
was really nice.
I totally get that. I totally get that.
Yeah. And I don't like 97% of what they carry doesn't apply to me or my work or what I do, but they have pretty shiny things, and so I definitely came home with a bag full of goodies. I got this beautiful uh, these bits of amber, and I just can't wait. A strand, that's the word I'm looking for. Brain dead. Strand of amber beads, and I can't wait to put them on something. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them yet, but I'm like, I can't leave you here. You have to come home with
So
me.
you're talking about shipwreck bees, right?
Shipwreck, yep.
So I used to use shipwreck back at the very beginning when I first started my business, and I haven't thought of them in a long time. You kind of get in your thing. I use mostly Fire Mountain gems, which is
Okay.
also up in Wyoming. This is in Washington State, up there on the Fire Mountain. So
Hmm.
I loved seeing those. I think I saw something on um, about going there on Instagram. Did I see something about you going there on Instagram?
You did, yes. And then I finally posted a picture yesterday of part of my haul. And yeah, if you're listening and if you want to follow me, I would love for you to follow me. I'm
What's your
Ms.
name?
Ms. Annie Pants, MS Annie Pants, Annie like the orphan. Um, and it's a mixture of my work, and I'm also an aspiring home chef, and then my animals in life in Alaska. I try to keep it art focused, but I also feel that me as a person, that's part of my art. Like I'm presenting me. And so that's part of the whole shtick. So yeah, give me a follow. That would be awesome. I'd appreciate
I
it.
know I follow you. Now, do you have pictures of your frogs on there? Because I'm gonna want to look for those frogs.
I don't yet. No. Well, a small picture. I have a picture of the dogs looking at the frogs.
Okay.
But I'll see what I can do about getting a good picture to
Okay,
get them
only
there.
because I'm a frog. I only because I just think that frogs are so important to our environment, and that's really how I think of it on our ranch. Is that if we have frogs, that means it's healthy. Of course, the first night that I built the pond and filled it up with water, and I'm all excited about it, and it was like this big thing. Like I spent all this money on chunks of glass rocks to put all over because of course it had to be an art pond.
Well,
And then
yes.
I woke up the next morning and there was two dead frogs in there. I'm like, how
Oh
did I
no.
do that? Like, they couldn't get out. So I'm like,
Oh.
oh no, I didn't know they were going to come so soon. Like first night out, I didn't have a stick in the water to so they could like get out of there. So I had to learn. That was sad, very sad for me, traumatic. I have
Oh.
PTSD from that almost. I'm just kidding, but really. So tell me about going to shipwreck beads because I used to be like friends with them. Like I would just call up and they like knew me. So
Oh,
they're a
awesome.
great company. They're a great company.
They no, they totally are. And again, a lot of what they carry isn't really my lane. If I'm going to add gemstones, I prefer genuine gemstones,
Right.
not necessarily beads because I'm not a beader. There other people do it far better. But I found some lovely strands. I found some little charms and things that I couldn't pass up. They've moved since the last time I was there, so I couldn't quite get my bearings at first. Like, didn't you used to be? And they were. So new space. And then the other bummer, is totally not their fault. Up until 2019, out of state residents didn't have to pay Washington sales tax. But that went away. So we had to pay sales tax, which is fine. And because we don't have sales tax here in Anchorage.
Right. Because
So
in
there's no,
Alaska, everybody's got that extra little bonus over their head so that you don't have to do that. Isn't that the nicest thing ever?
well,
Is it
I mean,
just
it is lovely, but we kind of consider it like repayment for
yeah,
shipping overcharges.
right.
So
Right.
we're not making any money because it definitely costs a lot more to live here.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think sometimes people hear Alaska when they're shipping and they think like Africa, like we're shipping it really far away. It's like, no, we're actually still part of the US. You don't have to change your money. Stamps work the same way, but it's just part of the fun in the shtick of living here.
Well, shipping, talking about shipping. Oh my God, it's so expensive. Shipping has gone through the roof. I just shipped a tiny little package to England, $44. It was like,
Yep.
really? Like,
It just keeps going up.
so from Alaska to ship something up, it's not like me shipping it across town. There's like one price all across the US. Does that pricing also work in Alaska? Like something,
It fluctuates depending on how far it's going, but I think
okay.
for the most part, like with, well, they call it global something now. They
Uh-huh.
changed it. It's not first class
Yeah,
anymore. But with first class, it used to sort of depend on how far it was going. Priority is pretty flat rate, so that's pretty
right.
much the same.
Yeah.
But in fact, this morning I was putting some orders out in the mailbox in front of the house, and I heard some little behind me, and I look and there's this baby bull moose coming to say hello. And
They're
we didn't have the front camera on, so I sent my husband a text like, "Hey, if the cameras had been on, you would have seen me heading to the front door a little faster than normal."
because they can be a
He
little
was just,
dangerous because they're giant animals. They're
they
soft
are
like a cow,
very
but
big.
they're giant.
Yes, they're very, very big. I mean, he wasn't charging. He was happy. He was fine. Just, I mean, he takes 3 steps and he covers 15 feet. So it was like, oh, I'll go back in the house now. But the mail's ready to go.
Now I have had moose meat before. Is that That's normal, but it was
Oh,
good.
totally normal.
I mean, it is like a cow. It's like a big cow. It's like,
Oh, yeah. I think, I mean, they might even be bigger, depending. But
oh yeah,
yeah, no,
they're bigger than a cow, but they're tasty. It's
they're
like
very tasty.
they're
Yes.
like yum. But anyway, I digress because that was just it was a good memory is what that was happening right there. It's like, oh yeah, moose meat. I'm sure you get it all the time because it's like something in Texas we would never have. But so is there anything I can send you from Texas that you, if there is, like just know I'm here. Just know
Oh,
I'm
I
your
love it. Well, thank you.
like
Thank
seriously.
you for
Like
being my emotional support lower
yeah,
48
well, yeah, well, I
provider.
kind of think that because I understand that because I lived in Canada for 12 years and it was very hard. And I've lived overseas and I've lived in multiple places. And I know sometimes you just want those Toll House chocolate chips, and there's just nothing like it anywhere in the world except for from wherever you are. So, and I know those are, and I see my friend, Nanette, and she's a radio tech at a hospital there in Barstow, Alaska. And like one night a week, the groceries are so expensive, they have the hospital provides them with one steak dinner and it's like $10 for a steak dinner, which normally it would be like a gazillion dollars. And I'm always so happy
Right.
when I see her pictures. I'm like, I'd be getting that too. That looks like that's a good $10 steak, is what that is happening. Like,
Yep,
but
yep.
seriously. Yeah. Now your work is really beautiful. Let's go back to about your jewelry. I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
we digressed but I feel like I'm meeting a friend. So it is really nice. We have a lot in common. So it's kind of nice.
For
It's very
sure.
nice to meet you. Like honestly, I'm really tickled about that. And so tell me about what inspires you. I mean, people can go online and they can look at your jewelry and they can follow you on Instagram, Miss Annie Pants.
Ms. MS, yes.
Yeah, Ms. Amy Pants. And then of course they can find you, and I'll put a link so they can find you also in the description of the podcast so they can like find all these little things from you.
I
But
love it.
you're living in a beautiful area. Do you feel like does any of that inspire you when you're working? Like what do you do to inspire yourself?
It's funny. I find that the things that sort of tickle me the most are just like the mundane. So it really has nothing to do with what's outside my window. I have a few little landscape pieces that I'll do here and there, and then I have a fireweed, which is it's a weed, but it's all over up here. It's this lovely pink flower, and we sort of like tell the where we are in the season by where the blossoms are on this flower. So I have a fireweed piece that's very popular. But like I have this handbag from that I got in Italy, and I was like, can I make that out of metal? And I did. And can I make a hammer? Like it's more of a challenge to myself to recreate what I see around me. And I challenged myself to do a piece a day. I think it was at the height of COVID lockdown. Like the bottom had literally fallen out from probably all of our businesses. All of
Oh
my
yeah.
wholesale
Oh yeah.
orders for the season, they canceled
Oh yeah.
within 3 days of each other. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah. Me
okay.
too. Me
So this is
too.
what we're
It
doing.
was start over 2020.
Yeah, it was like let's pivot real hard and figure out how we're going to make this work.
How did
So
you make
I
it work?
I I did this piece a day challenge basically. So I would allow myself the time to basically just fart around for 1 to 3 to 6 hours in the studio to make whatever piece I decided I wanted to make. It's hard when you have wholesale hanging over your head to waste 6 hours on something that you don't know if anyone's going to want. So having that pressure removed was actually kind of fabulous. Excuse me. But I have some of the pieces here if you want to see
Let's see
one.
them.
So this is, and I don't know if it's going
It's
to,
a purse.
isn't it cute? So
Oh,
this is the
oh,
replica of the Italian handbag. It even has a
oh,
little
it's
zipper on the top.
beautiful. Is there money when you open it? Because I want money on the inside of that.
It doesn't open, but we can pretend there's money in there.
There's a bucket of pearls in there. It's really
Exactly.
beautiful. It's really
Thank
beautiful.
you.
So is it solid? Like I have no idea. I do not do silver. It's not in my thing. Not even gonna even try gonna. But I'm always curious about when I see all the equipment that goes into it. It's like, oh my God, you have to invest so much. And then it's so expensive, all those things, all that silver and all that. So is it solid or was it a sheet? Like,
So it started as individual components. And I'm not a seamstress by any means. Sewing is not something that I can do, but basically I made a pattern like you would if you were sewing something. So, the edges,
Oh,
the sides, and then basically soldered it together and formed it to basically come back on itself. So instead of using a sewing machine, I used heat and solder and a hammer. We love our hammers.
okay. And so you also made a hammer.
I did make a hammer. I do
I
have a
want to
hammer
see.
here. Let
I
me
want to see
pull
the
this out.
scale of it to see how it looks.
She's wee,
Oh, looky how cute. Does it have a ring at the
right?
top? Is there a ring at the top? Yeah.
A
A,
little
a
tiny
little
hole.
tiny.
And then we've got the little claw at the
You
end.
know, that is so cute. And
Thank you.
I'm trying to think if I could make that in resin, but I don't think so. It'd be hard to even be hard to kind of mold it because it's that 3D part, is a little bit tricky on that. But it's really a work of art. Like these
Well,
are
thank you.
little museum pieces. That's another thing. When you're talking about like making things that are kind of like you're not even worried about selling them. It's just I'm gonna make this because it's cool. Like, do you go back in history? I love to see all these old things in history. And you go, oh my God, I can't believe they made that. Like they made that like way back without any of the stuff that we have today. Like, do you ever see that? Do you follow any of that all the old stuff, which is stunning to me?
Oh, for sure. I mean, anything antiques history, if walls could talk, like that's my jam. I love that kind of stuff. In fact, I was just back east. We my grandmother's in a nursing home and we need to sort of liquidate her assets to make sure that she's taken care of as she
Yeah.
needs to be. So I was back to sort of help go through all of these things. And it's like the stuff that we found in that attic, man, so cool. And yes, the way that it's made, and there's a big Amish culture there as well. So nails versus pins versus, yeah, like the arts and crafts movement back when I was in school, like that was my jam. Like, can we just take that art history class for the rest of
Oh,
of all of the things? Because I just think it's so great, and it's a lost art, just making things with hands. And that's what I say about my work. It's not highly polished, it's not super finished, and I never want it to be. I say that I want evidence of hand. I want you to know that it's handmade. I want you to know that even if I did make, dear God, I never want to make 9,000, but if I made several, I don't want them to be exactly the same, because that other people do that better, and by other people I mean machines. So I always want you to know that it was handmade. um
I
and
did
that's what
a
I think a lot of this fabrication is obviously this wasn't stamped or molded or came out of some big factory. Like, nope, somebody actually labored over this.
popped into your head and then it became a thing. Like it never was a thing before it came into your head. Like it is amazing. I did a little thing with Hermes, and one thing that they talked about is, if we have a little mark on something, we just say it, oh, it's because it's made by hand. We like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even Hermes at the level that they're in and the perfection that they aspire to, it's still okay if it's got a little, even if you wear it and it's got a little mark on it, it's okay because it's just like that
Absolutely.
love of the piece is all in there. So that kind of like shows you that we all like things that are handmade because they're selling at a global level and they're fine with that. They're like, yeah, it's artisan made. That's
Yeah.
that's what we're selling. So that should make you feel really good too. And I love it that your pieces are one of a kind. I totally get that. That's why we're going to be friends forever because we're on that one of a kind jam. Like,
I
you
love
know,
it.
it doesn't need to be, it needs to be special, when somebody wears it. I just had a client here and I told her as she walked out, I'm like, now you remember, you tell them, this is from Sugar Gay Isber and she's famous. Like, say that every time. You want people to know. It's not true,
Absolutely.
but it just gets that little juice going for somebody that's, looking at her stuff and admiring it and going, oh, that's pretty, but it's all made
Oh,
by
for
hand.
sure. And I like when I'm in the grocery store or like even watching the nightly news, I'm always scoping to see who's wearing my stuff. And I know that that sounds so conceited,
No,
but it's just like, ooh, ooh, I'm seeing it in the wild. Like, I love it.
I know. I have a news anchor here that wears like the same one pair of earrings over. Actually, it's these earrings. She has these earrings.
Oh,
She
well, they're
wears them
lovely.
over. She wears them over and over. I'm like, I kind of need to send her something else, so she's gonna wear those out. But yeah, because it's cute. That's because we work hard. Nothing bad about that. That our stuff is in the wild and that we're looking for it because we want that. That's like a little affirmation that we've done our job well and that people admire our things. Like it's not every day that that happens. So it certainly is it feels good. Like we need some feel good. So I get it. COVID, start over. I did the same thing. I have a whole room of jewelry because I never stopped during COVID, even though I had no orders. I'm like, every piece I'm just getting better and better and better. So
Mhm.
why stop? Like it's not going to stop me that I'm just making this shit. Not gonna can't eat it, but certainly got to get rid of it. But it's just part of who I was. I'm not going to stop. It's because I don't have a customer. I'm thinking about that customer. So
Oh, of course.
yeah.
Well, and a lot of the one of a kinds that I did during the piece a day, excuse me, I did list them each day after I made them, and it was kind of a running joke in our house, like how long until we heard the ding that it sold, and I think the record was like 4 minutes.
Oh
So, which
wow.
was super cool. But some of the pieces I realized that like I just love too much personally
Yeah.
that like I
Yeah.
can't sell them. Like the little, obviously the little suitcase, and then we're really into drag in this house. Like I want to be a drag queen so badly. But I made a Ginny Lemon.
Oh.
So she's one of the British drag queens, and she's fantastic. And so I made this Ginny Lemon face, and I've taken it to a couple shows, and I realized as people sort of stop to look at it that I want to snatch it out of their hands. So I was like, you know what? That's
Yeah.
mine now. Like
Yeah.
you can't have it. I love it too much. But I did do a few other drag queens, and they sold, which is fantastic. Because I want these things to go out there, and I want people to love their one of a kinds. But I also want to keep some of the specials for me too.
No, we have to wrap this up in a minute, but I want to tell you that my son just sent me a list of all his favorite drag queens so that I could go on their website. We should do this together
I
and
love it.
go on their websites and see if we can like make things for them because they're always out in the wild, for example.
Of
I like how
course.
you said that. But you know, definitely I think that there's some it's just I mean, because we have cool stuff, and they're kind of some of the people who might wear it. So, a little bit more exaggerated, interesting jewelry. So I have
For
a whole
sure.
list. I'll just copy it from WhatsApp and send it to you so that he did the research for us.
I
So
love it.
yeah, and then we'll go on Chat GPT and have Chat GPT, and I'm going to help you with this, and then have them write up a little letter, and then we'll just start posting it to everybody and just go, hey,
This is fantastic.
yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
a girl from
dream coming true here.
yeah, a girl from Anchorage and a girl from Texas. They're gonna mold up, and we're gonna figure out how we can like do something together or at least just talk about ourselves to them to go, hey,
Absolutely.
we should be
We're coming
making.
for you, Bianca. Let's do authority. Come
Yeah,
on.
oh yeah, I've met her before. I made a crown for her. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
for
very
sure.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. She's my son's favorite, and she came to Austin. So I met her at a show she puts on. She's really funny. So you
She's
can
hilarious. She's my
yeah.
husband's favorite, hands
Ah,
down.
okay. Well, look at
Yeah.
us. We are so similar. That's the one drag queen I've actually met. So, and I know she's especially
I've met several. I'm that person, but
oh,
they're all fantastic.
that is so fun. Well, I look forward to more conversations with you. Um, is there anything else you want to tell anybody? Like, this is your like last like closing sentence.
This is the sentence. Other than give me a follow, I'd love the support. Just keep supporting your local artists. Support your community. Support your makers. Man, these hands they've seen a lot. We all work with them, and we appreciate the support. So whether you're super local or you want to get hyper local, or if you're just supporting handmade out there, I think it's incredibly important, especially without getting political, this crazy economic climate that we are in. This this is what we do. This is what I do. This isn't my side hustle. This is my whole hustle.
We were born to do this. That's how it
For
really is.
sure.
Like I was born an
And
artist.
yes, and while
End of story.
we can both pivot and we can sort of supplement income streams here and there, the number one down and dirty for me is I make jewelry, and I would love to make it for you and your friends and other people. And let's do that with all the art people. Give them your money, support them, and surround yourself with beautiful things, because we all deserve to be surrounded by beauty.
Yes, we do. Well, you and I are going to talk again because you're a lovely guest on my podcast today. And
Thank you
we've been,
so much for having me.
oh yeah, and we've been talking to Annie Ciszak, and she's in Anchorage, Alaska, and you can find her on Instagram. There'll be a link at the bottom, so make sure but it's Miss Annie Pants, MS.
Yes.
And then it's like Annie Oakley or Orphan Annie,
Yep,
and
yep.
then pants. So the
Yes.
traveling pants. So you can remember that. Ms. Annie Pants on Instagram. I hope I got that right. Anyway, thank you again for your time. I'm gonna hit the disconnect button just to stop recording. And I thank you for being on my podcast. And I really look forward to talking to you again very soon.
I love it. Thank you, Sugar. You're the best.